Title: My family thought I was just a dropout, but I secretly built $1 million empire. He told me he'd never forget that day. It was a sweltering Sunday afternoon, just after a typical family lunch. Everyone was in the living room, his dad reading the newspaper, his mom knitting, and his older brother scrolling through his phone. Everything felt ordinary, until he spoke up. I'd decided to drop out of college. That was all he said, and the air froze. His mom dropped her knitting needles to the floor. His dad slowly folded the paper, his expression darkening. His brother looked up, raising an eyebrow. You're joking, right? But he wasn't. He was dead serious. And within seconds, the entire room exploded. His father shouted, "Are you out of your mind? After everything we've sacrificed for your education?" His mother wept, grabbing his hand. "Please think this through, son, please." His brother scoffed, "What's next? Dishwashing? Food delivery?" He told me it felt like being pushed into a corner. He tried to explain he had a plan, that it wasn't giving up, it was choosing a different path. But no one heard him. All they saw was recklessness and stupidity. That night, he locked himself in his room. For hours, he sat on his bed remembering all those lectures he sat through, thinking about business ideas instead. The dream school never understood. He thought he was ready for this moment, but he wasn't prepared for the heartbreak. Night, he locked himself in his room. For hours, he sat on his bed remembering all those lectures he sat through, thinking about business ideas instead. The dream school never understood. He thought he was ready for this moment, but he wasn't prepared for the heartbreak that, when night fell, he quietly packed. Every sound, the zipping of his bag, the shuffle of his steps, felt like a goodbye. His mom sat in silence, her eyes swollen. His father looked up just once and said, coldly, "If you walk out that door, don't expect anything from us." So he walked away, with nothing but a backpack, an old laptop, a notebook full of dreams, and a heart set on proving them all wrong, and to me, it remains one of the boldest beginnings I've ever heard. The first days after leaving home hit him harder than he ever expected. No friends. No family. Just a cheap room at the end of a damp alleyway. The walls were stained with mold, and the faint smell of mildew lingered through the night. On his first morning there, he woke up on a thin mattress laid on the floor. Looking up at the ceiling stained with water, he whispered to himself, "This is my starting line." There was no cheer squad, no comfort. Just reality, and his resolve. By day, he worked as a delivery guy for a local fast food joint. While riding his second-hand scooter through crowded streets, he listened to podcasts about startups and online business. Every time a customer tipped him $1 or $2, he logged it carefully in a notebook. Within a week, he saved enough money to install an internet connection. That's when phase 2 began, building his online store. He stayed up night after night, squinting at tutorials, learning how to use Shopify, struggling through product descriptions in English. He didn't sleep much. Sometimes, he'd doze off with his head on the keyboard, but each new day, he sat back down at that table, an old wooden desk he bought secondhand, and kept going. He built shelves from stacked bricks. He pinned a whiteboard to the wall and wrote in bold letters, "You are not allowed to fail." Nobody called to check in. Nobody clapped for his effort. But every sleepless night, every YouTube video watched at 2 a.m., every experiment with Facebook ads, all of it was laying bricks for something greater. And I believe, sometimes, the things you build in silence become the loudest proof of your strength. Life doesn't get easier just because you work hard, and he learned that the hard way. After the first few weeks of setup, he launched his initial ad campaigns, selling imported phone accessories. Losses came quickly. The products weren't profitable, shipping costs ate up margins, and failed deliveries led to refund requests. His spreadsheet bled red. Doubt crept in, but that was only the beginning. One time, he invested nearly all his savings into a trendy batch of wireless earbuds. The shipment was delayed, the quality was poor, and the designs didn't match the listings. A week after launch, not a single unit sold. His page was flooded with 1-star reviews. Instead of quitting, he pivoted. He tried dropshipping custom t-shirts. He stayed up all night designing templates, learning Photoshop, running Instagram ads. A single order from the US made his week, until the customer refunded it due to blurry print. All the profit was gone. One stormy evening, he sat under the awning of the coffee shop where he worked, eating instant noodles, soaked from the rain. He told me, that night, I didn't feel like a dreamer. I felt like a ghost. Not someone with a future, but someone clinging to denial. Still, he stood back up. This time, he paused and reviewed everything: his expenses, feedback, failed ads. Then he wrote on his board, "No need to win fast, just never give up." He restructured everything, redesigned his website, narrowed focus to one niche: custom phone accessories. He made sample pieces by hand, took real photos, and wrote detailed descriptions. For the first time, he wasn't just selling a product, he was selling a lifestyle, and I believe what's admirable wasn't his success, but the way he turned every bruise into strategy. Everyone has a moment they never forget, a moment when every effort, every sacrifice, every failure, finally starts to make sense. For him, that moment arrived quietly. It was late October. He had just updated his website after countless tests and optimizations to improve user experience. He wasn't expecting much. His previous orders had been slow, infrequent, and mostly one-time customers. But that night, 7 orders came in, back to back. Not spam, not a glitch. 7 real people from 3 different countries, all purchasing the same phone case he had designed himself. At first, he thought maybe his friends were supporting him. But after checking IPs, shipping addresses, and emails, it became clear, these were real customers. He told me he cried that night. Not because of the money, but because, for the first time, the world had truly answered him. The next morning, instead of sleeping in, he put on a jacket and walked to the small park near his apartment. The air was cool, and leaves scattered along the path. He said that, for the first time in months, he felt alive, no longer running, just being. From that point on, everything began to change. He started receiving more emails, more positive comments on social media. One customer from Australia sent a photo of the product with the message, "It's beautiful," and it made my day. He printed that photo and pinned it above his desk as proof that things were finally going in the right direction. A customer in Germany asked to distribute his product on a private channel. Someone in Japan placed an order for 10 cases as gifts for their employees. For the first time, he had to create an order tracking sheet and use a free inventory management tool to keep up with demand. He kept learning how to work with overseas suppliers, negotiate shipping rates, and track packages internationally. He wrote sample email templates, customer reply scripts, and even learned basic Japanese and German to say thank you properly. His nights were still busy, but unlike before, he wasn't alone anymore. He began building a small community. Customers started returning for second and third orders. Some asked, "Do you offer custom designs? I want to gift one to my girlfriend." Others shared his products on TikTok, bringing in nearly 30,000 views within days. One day, while making coffee for a customer at the cafe where he still worked evening shifts, his phone buzzed. The notification read, "You've reached your monthly sales goal." It wasn't the first time, but it was the first time it happened by the 18th of the month. That night, he sat alone, played an old playlist from his early days of building the business. Same old wooden desk. Same warm desk lamp. But this time, instead of writing another keep going note, he wrote something new on his whiteboard. "Now, it's time to break through." And I'll never forget how he told me, his voice cracking with emotion. In that moment, I knew I hadn't chosen wrong. Success doesn't arrive with a big announcement, it creeps in quietly and tests whether you're ready for the next level. And he was. After that breakthrough, things didn't just continue, they accelerated. More orders started flowing in, and his daily operations became too much for one person. He knew he had to expand, or risk letting his hard-won momentum fade. His first move wasn't hiring someone, it was streamlining. He listed every task he did daily: customer emails, packaging instructions, inventory checks, social media replies, marketing updates. Then he grouped them into systems. He learned about automation tools, customer service templates, fulfillment apps. He didn't just want to grow, he wanted to grow smart. Still working part-time at the cafe, he used every break to watch tutorials on supply chain management. Every paycheck went into upgrading his tools, a better laptop, faster Wi-Fi, and eventually, his first outsourced service, a virtual assistant from the Philippines to help with customer emails. When he told me about it, he laughed, hiring someone before even owning an office? It felt strange, but it worked. Then came the supplier negotiations. He reached out to multiple manufacturers, comparing quality, pricing, and delivery time. He got burned once. An order of 100 units arrived with 40% defects. But instead of panicking, he documented everything, filed a dispute, and got a partial refund. Lesson learned. By the start of spring, his little room had transformed. Whiteboard charts with growth metrics lined the wall. A calendar was filled with launch plans and content ideas. He had started building a brand, not just selling items. He launched a newsletter. Started giving names to collections. Created an Instagram page that wasn't just a product showcase, it told stories, celebrated milestones, and invited customers to share their own photos. One weekend, a micro-influencer in Los Angeles featured his product. Overnight, traffic to the site doubled. Then tripled. And just like that, he hit his first 5-figure month. He didn't throw a party. Didn't go on a trip. That night, he made himself a cup of tea, sat by the window, and looked out at the city lights. He texted me 2 words: "We scaled." And that's when I realized, this wasn't just survival anymore. This was the beginning of something much bigger. By the start of spring, his little room had transformed. Whiteboard charts with growth metrics lined the wall. A calendar was filled with launch plans and content ideas. He had started building a brand, not just selling items. He launched a newsletter. Started giving names to collections. Created an Instagram page that wasn't just a product showcase, it told stories, celebrated milestones, and invited customers to share their own photos. One weekend, a micro-influencer in Los Angeles featured his product. Overnight, traffic to the site doubled. Then tripled. And just like that, he hit his first 5-figure month. He didn't throw a party. Didn't go on a trip. That night, he made himself a cup of tea, sat by the window, and looked out at the city lights. He texted me 2 words: "We scaled." And that's when I realized, this wasn't just survival anymore. This was the beginning of something much bigger. Some reunions are dramatic. Others are quiet, layered in years of distance and growth. His was the second kind. A month after that first phone call, he returned home, not as a dropout, not as a disappointment, but as someone who had built something of his own. The bus ride was long. His palms were sweaty. He didn't know what to expect. When he arrived, the house hadn't changed. Same chipped front gate. Same faded paint. But the energy was different. His sister opened the door and smiled. No words, just a long, quiet hug. His mom was in the kitchen, cooking. She turned, surprised, then smiled like she had been expecting him anyway. "Lunch is almost ready," she said, like he had never left. He sat down at the old wooden table, and for the first time in years, it didn't feel small. His dad entered last. He stood at the doorway for a moment, then walked over and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Welcome back," was all he said. But it was enough. Over lunch, they talked about business, about struggles, about how much he had changed. There were no grand apologies, no emotional breakdowns. Just honesty. Respect. A mutual understanding that time had shaped them all. Later that afternoon, his dad asked to see the product warehouse. When he explained that it was still run from his apartment, his dad laughed and said, "You've done more with a bedroom than most do with an office." That evening, they sat on the porch, just the 2 of them. No phone. No distractions. His dad finally said, "I didn't believe in it back then. But I believe in you now." And that's when it truly came full circle. Because success, to him, was never just about money or metrics. It was about being able to sit across from the people who once doubted him, and not need revenge, just connection. That night, he didn't sleep in his old room. He left a note on the pillow: "Thank you, for everything, even the doubt." And that's how the boy who left with a backpack came home a man, with grace, with vision, and with a story that would one day inspire thousands. Key takeaways: doubt from others can be fuel, but growth comes from proving it to yourself first. Success isn't measured by what you have, but by who you become along the way. Isolation can be painful, but it can also sharpen purpose. Forgiveness doesn't always need to be spoken, it can be felt in presence, gestures, and shared silence. You don't need a perfect start to create a powerful finish.